Cantilena. What is that all about? Just some words. What is it? Say again. Dreaming. Could be dreaming. What else? Anything else? Different? Same? Emotional. Okay. Got it. It's very kind of sweet and friendly and warm. Maybe. Singing. Right. It's probably about a voice. Do you know where Villa-Lobos was from? Where he lived? He lived in Brazil. Brazil is a gigantic country, and there are a lot of traditions. Folk traditions, native Brazilian traditions, and he was influenced by so many different types of music. And he wrote a lot of music. And as you notice in the second movement, where it says Brincadeira, and I said that wrong probably because I don't speak Portuguese, but that's what they speak in Brincadeira. But it's translated as a joke here, so that's good to know because I wouldn't have known that otherwise. But he uses those special sounds where you slap the bow on the string. So he may have been thinking of sort of native South American instruments and all sorts of interesting sounds. It's not like playing Haydn or Mozart or Beethoven, right? It's very different music. It's very distinct music. So I think you're already doing such a good job of showing us that you understand that it's a little bit different. Now there are some details. Some of these are just practical things. Like when you get in the second movement, rehearsal number 2, what is your dynamic?
Fortissimo.
Fortissimo. Now if I were sitting here, I often thought this would be kind of fun. You give an audience a score, right? Give all people a score of a piece, and then the pencil. No dynamics in the score. And their job is to write down the dynamics they think you have. Now, I think everyone would have thought they were playing loudly there. But I'm not sure if everyone would have said, that's fortissimo. So can we play right at that place, right where the fortissimo is? And without smashing your instruments in half, please don't do that. That would be kind of a mess. Plus, we don't want to be harsh about it because joke implies, it's not heavy music, right? It's lively, energetic. So show me a lively, energetic, show us, not just me, show the recording devices, the world. The whole world is watching this right now. Yeah, they're all tuned in. Oh, I'm just kidding. But show us all start right there, right up to, and then we're going to get into it, but just start right on it first. Okay, good. So that was loudish. I don't know. Who thinks that was really, you all know what fortissimo is? It's 2 Fs. Technically means, basicissimo in Italian means the most, right? So the most loud. Although composers sometimes write 3 Fs and 4 Fs. I've even seen 5. Isn't that crazy? But let's just say, for argument's sake, this is the loudest place in both of the movements. Probably is, right? I'm not sure anybody would have said that the loudest. So, let me show you a couple of things, since I happen to bring my cello along today. There are lots of ways we can produce fortissimo. One is really get in the string kind of heavily, like this. I don't think, like I was saying, I don't think this is heavy music. Another way is come from above, and just when you get to the string with the bow, you put no weight into it. So you guys are a little bit this way now, which gets you like mezzo forte, right? But what if you could, and suppose the piece started right there. We're starting fortissimo. Let's go. Try that. Pretend that the whole piece starts at number 2, and you're starting from silence, and you have to give us, now, we're going to do it for real in a minute, and now obviously that's not the same as what you're going to do now. But right now, we want to know, I want to find out what your rich, big fortissimo is. That was already like twice as much as before. That's already better. Can you try one thing though? Because your tendency is still to be a little, and I'm admitting that when you do it for real, this may be hard to do. But let's just do it. So, can you have your bow here, all of the time, and then I'll do it with you, and then we're going to breathe together. We're going to go. Okay, good. We're going to breathe 1 quarter time, right? Can you have the aim for? So we got this whole length of bow, violin bows are longer, and the old bows are the longest. It's not fair. The old bows are shorter. Anyway, but in any case, you have a frog and a tip. What part of the bow do you think is best for making fortissimo? Frog. Closer to the frog. Maybe not, exactly at the frog, but close to it. Much harder to do it here because there's no weight. We can figure it out, but more natural to go. Look how close. You see that little bit of winding? Do you all have winding on your bow? Yeah. I'm just going right there. Can we try it right there? And with the bow coming from above, you just roll. And once you get to the string, you can stay on the string. But to start, come from above. Let's just try it. Yeah, I'll count again. Now then you guys do it without me. So I won't make you do it any million more times. Maybe only half a million. I'm just kidding. But you are still doing this. You're not coming from above. So that's a certain technique that you want to work on, is being able to catch the string from above. Sometimes that's useful. Now, again, in the context of piece, where you are at number 2, you're there. Let's see, some of you are pits, right? So you have to, in fact, 3 of you are pits. And you have to suddenly, is that true? 3 of you? Yes, it is true. 3 of you are pits, and then you have to go to arco right away. So that's an extra added challenge. Let's try it though. How many bars before 2 is good? Maybe go away from 1, why not? The other thing I want to tell you about dynamics is I noticed listening to it, that he doesn't always write the same exact dynamic for all 4 of you. Sometimes somebody has louder, people therefore have softer. So at 1, who has forte? Anyone? At 1? The rehearsal 1? I see in the first violin part, you have forte, right? At 1? Now, there's no dynamic for anybody else. Let's see. Now, if we go back to the beginning of the piece, it looks like second violin would be what? Mezzo forte, right? And if you go back to your last place to see dynamic, what dynamic do you guys have? Yeah. So those are layers of sound, right? I don't know if it can be exactly that, but I think there should be some sense of it being a little different. So keep that in mind. But then when you get to number 2, what happens? Everybody has fortissimo. So not only is it fortissimo, but you go from some people playing softly, some people playing medium loud, to everybody playing loudly. So you should make us jump out of our seats. Okay, try it at 1, rehearsal number 1. And keep that in mind. When you get to 2, you're going to make us jump out of our seats. I'm going to drop my cello, it's going to break into 2. No, I won't do that, I promise. This is getting really fancy. I'm going to get really fancy for 1 second. You probably need to go. See what I did? I added about 2 milliseconds. You know how much a millisecond is? Can you feel a millisecond? Well, it's kind of hard. This is a thousandth of a second. That's really tough. So meaning it's not that much time, right? It's easy bit of time just to really feel it before these. So don't feel like you have to trip into it. We're not really changing the tempo, but you need to be able to grab your bows and be ready to go. So that's important. Can we try that one more time? I also think that we can go look at 4/4/2. Now I know what I said about dynamics before, but now here's a place where you might just cheat a little bit. Because you need a little bit. That's a kind of cool line, isn't it? Yeah. So the reason we can vary dynamics sometimes a teeny bit is because you have something cool to play. It doesn't mean you can overshadow the person who has a real melody, which in this case is the first violin, which you could bring it out a little bit more. Can you do that? Yeah, cool. Can we do one? Can that be sorry to bug you? I'm not sorry to bug you. That's what I'm here for. I'm happy to bug you. What if that's just a little more singing, teeny bit more soloistic? Can you try that? Yeah, much better. Yeah, no, you can keep going. I was complimenting you, but not to stop it. Okay, go ahead. He writes that little ritardando in the third beat of the first measure, which could be confusing. I think it's because that's that bar is sort of introducing, right? And then when the second part comes, okay, now we're going, right? So it's a little bit hard to feel the tempo right away. But make sure it's particularly important for you guys because you have the quarter notes to really be together and make sure that you are in sync with those quarter notes. So you're not, we're falling apart together, but there were places where I thought, if you just tightened it up a little bit, it would be better. Okay, let's try it. I'm not there. First one more time. So nicely to what we call four-part vocal writing. So you have bass, tenor, alto, soprano, right? And so you got to think in terms of like this movement is perfect for that because it's slow and you have a chance to think about your sound. And you want to think about how the bass supports and gives this sort of how would I put it? It's kind of a warmth and a ground. I use the word grounding a lot. It settles everything down. So it starts with the bass and then it builds up from there. And it doesn't necessarily be louder all the time. It's just being there that really get it. So the problem is sometimes you just see piano and think, oh, I only have about a half note, not that important, and you play less. So I think you could be a little more. Just try one more time at the beginning. And keep the mezzo forte longer. Just keep singing. Be soloist longer. but spend a little time working on the intonation there. But I'm wanting you to notice things that are interesting that need to come out. So like when the eighth notes happen, you bring it out a little bit. When you have a line that's really the sort of melody line, the solo line, make sure you sing it out. When you have, most of the time in the cello part, the bass line, it doesn't mean loud all the time, just give it a little more depth of sound, and you'll hear that again and again and again as you grow older and continue to play the cello. You get better and better at it, and you're already good at it. So just think about that. All of you are. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.